Kings Island is one of the best amusement parks in the United States. It boasts an incredible lineup of 14 roller coasters with one of the best top 3 at any park in the world. But this park is also known for its great atmosphere, operations, food, and cleanliness. In this video, we will give our thoughts on this park and walk you through your day at Kings Island to help you save time and money to have the best and most efficient day possible at this park. The first thing you will notice after entering Kings Island is how great the atmosphere is for a regional park. There is so much shade and natural greenery, and the fountains and Eiffel Tower when you walk in are also very scenic. The park is usually very clean, and in general, the employees are also friendly. These are attributes which a lot of regional parks don't always have, and it really helps set the tone for your day before you even get on a single roller coaster. Kings Island has arguably one of the best roller coaster lineups of any park in the world, but it doesn't really have a standout. Instead, it has 5 different coasters, which are the best, depending on who you ask. My favorite is Diamondback, the park's B&M Hyper Coaster, which is widely accepted as one of the best of its model. When it opened in 2009, the park advertised it as having the most airtime of any coaster in the world, and I wouldn't doubt that fact. Every single one of its 12 airtime hills delivers strong floater and sometimes even borderline ejector airtime. Not a single hill on this coaster is forceless, and the clamshell restraints allow you to feel free and get all of that airtime. Plus, the turnarounds have some strong positive G's to mix it up. Diamondback does have a little bit of a rattle in some valleys during the layout, but it isn't strong enough to affect my opinion of this coaster at all. The layout also goes out into the woods a bit, so it is a fun setting and a good night ride, like all of Kings Island's top coasters. Finally, right before the brake run, there is a fun splashdown element, which is a nice final touch to the layout. I'd recommend riding this attraction in the back row at least once, especially because of how long the trains are. This coaster features staggered seats, meaning it's longer than the trains on Orion by quite a bit, even though they both seat 32 passengers. This means you get extra whip in the back row over all of the drops, which is why I recommend the back row so much. Overall, this is my favorite attraction at the park and one of the best hypercoasters in the entire world. On the other side of the park lies another massive B&M masterpiece, this one being Orion. It stands at a height of 287 feet but with a drop of 300 feet, so it is considered a gigacoaster, as much as enthusiasts like to say otherwise. But what isn't up for debate is that this is a great coaster. It has great pacing and speed, solid airtime, and one of the best first drops in the world. It really is a fun ride that gets way too much hate. It isn't perfect, but it has a lot of fun elements which give a great sense of speed and toss you out of your seat, including 3 very strong airtime hills, besides just the outstanding first drop. There's also some theming in the queue, which is something we're starting to see from Cedar Fair a little bit more. Plus, it is one of the prettiest coasters ever built. The white and blue colors are probably some of my favorite on any coaster, and of course, it also features those awesome B&M restraints which add to the ride experience. You should also try this attraction at least once in the back row for the extra airtime you get on the first drop, but also the front row for the extra sense of speed that you get on this giga coaster. Overall, Orion is my second favorite coaster at this park, just behind Diamondback by a slim margin, and I definitely would say I prefer it to the legendary Millennium Force at Cedar Point. Often considered the best coaster built by GCI in the US, this attraction flies through its layout. Each twist and turn throws you from one side of the train to the other, never letting you catch your breath. The layout contains both strong airtime moments and laterals and just hits you with those forces over and over again. It is almost unreal how smooth it is too. There isn't a single hint of roughness, and it might even be smoother than Diamondback. Plus, it has a great night ride. There are a couple of random lights along the layout, but it is almost completely dark. I absolutely prefer a Mystic Timbers night ride to a Beast night ride. Just make sure you hold up the lap bar from the moment you leave the station so you can feel all the airtime, as these lap bar restraints will ratchet down further on you during the layout and even on the lift hill. The park's B&M invert, Banshee, has a great layout but was a letdown for me. There are some great moments like the drop, inline twist, and the pretzel knot, but it sort of feels like a layout for a wing coaster rather than an invert. The best and most legendary B&M inverts like Montu at Busch Gardens Tampa, Raptor at Cedar Point, and Afterburn at Carowinds have really strong pacing and quick elements, but Banshee's elements are a lot more spaced out and not as snappy. Even though the elements do provide some intense moments, I would rather see better pacing for an invert. I would also like to see normal over-the-shoulder restraints rather than the vest restraints. The vests continue to ratchet down during the ride and squeeze your chest and collarbone by the end. No matter how hard I tried to hold up the restraint to prevent this problem, I couldn't stop it, which is also kind of a testament to how strong the positive G's are on this coaster. But my main critique is the horrible rattle. Every single valley and intense moment shakes the train like crazy. This makes enjoying the ride way more difficult. For me, the front was definitely smoother and it helped the rattle a little bit. Overall, I would say Banshee does have a decent layout and is an okay ride, but it would be so much better if it was smooth. Kings Island also has 3 other coasters that hang under the track: the Bat, Invertigo, and Flying Ace Aerial Chase. The Bat is one of the best aero suspended coasters. It is short but is intense for a family ride and uses the terrain brilliantly. The only problem is that to get to the ride station, you have to walk on a very long path that is just a dead end with nothing else back there. But the layout is quite fun and I honestly enjoyed it almost as much as Banshee. Invertigo is just a simple copy and paste Vekoma inverted boomerang. Riding in the middle was just smooth enough to enjoy, and taking the Cobra roll backwards is a really weird feeling. The park's smallest inverted coaster is Flying Ace Aerial Chase. This is your typical Vekoma suspended family coaster, and is one of the worst and most shaky family coasters I've ever ridden. Now, probably the most overrated coaster I've ever ridden is the Beast. People rave about its length and character, but to me, it is just an old, janky, and rough ride. I can respect it for being so revolutionary, but now it is just old and rough to me. If you like the Beast, I can respect your opinion, but to me personally, this is a coaster I either skip or ride just once when visiting Kings Island. The whole ride I find myself bracing for each turn and bump. The only good part of the ride is the final drop in Helix. In my opinion, this should get RMC'd. I can't imagine how much RMC could do with that huge track length and massive structure. But it won't happen anytime soon as Kings Island just retracked the Beast in 2023. I'd recommend giving this coaster a try if you are visiting the park for the first time to form your own opinion though. I know that this is arguably the park's signature coaster, even as old as it is, but it's just not for me personally. I actually much prefer the park's other wooden roller coaster, Racer. This is a racing coaster designed by John C. Allen, and unlike the Beast, actually has airtime and isn't rough. Racer pleasantly surprised me as nobody talks about how good it is. It almost feels like an afterthought when I hear other enthusiasts talk about this park. This attraction is quite smooth, partly because it received some vertical pre-cut track and high-stress sections from Gravity Group a few seasons ago. Overall, this is easily the most underrated coaster at Kings Island in my opinion. Next to Orion in Area 72 is Flight of Fear, one of the most painful roller coasters I've ridden personally. The restraints and trains are some of the worst on any coaster and are painful. They have a shin guard that bangs into your legs, and there's a barrel that squeezes your foot into the bottom of the car. I believe there is slightly more legroom in the back rows of the cars than in the front due to the wheel well, but either way, the train design is just terrible and cramped. This just makes all of the janky transitions and inversions worse. Launching into the dark is fun, but when you know the pain is coming, it makes it a lot less enjoyable. I do like the theming in the station and queue though, which is the one sort of redeeming quality of this ride to me. Personally, this is an attraction I just avoid when visiting Kings Island, especially because the line is usually quite long. However, if you can look past the bad transitions and restraints, you might enjoy this coaster's intensity, but it's just not for me personally. Kings Island has 3 solid smaller family coasters, with Adventure Express, Backlot Stunt Coaster, and Woodstock Express. Adventure Express is an aero mine train with a very disappointing finale because it ends with a lift hill, but it's a decent family coaster. Backlot Stunt Coaster is another fun family ride. The trains are a little small, but the theming and storytelling is well done for a regional park. Plus, the helix after the launch is actually quite intense. Woodstock Express is a small wooden coaster that is a nice stepping stone coaster for small kids. All of these coasters can be a bit uncomfortable if you're taller, but they aren't targeted at adults, so I don't really have a right to complain about it. In 2024, Kings Island will be adding another family coaster. This will be a Vekoma family boomerang called Snoopy's Soapbox Racers. It will be the park's 7th family or kid coaster, which makes this a great park for families. Kings Island also has a Snoopy-themed section like most Cedar Fair parks, however this one is much bigger, with 4 roller coasters and over 10 flat rides. Besides roller coasters, Kings Island has a decent amount of adult flat rides. They have a massive Huss Frisbee ride and a tall intimate drop tower. There's also a Mondial Windseeker and a couple of other Zamperla flat rides. One of the things you cannot miss out on is the Eiffel Tower. It gives amazing views of the park and surrounding area, and you can only experience this at one other park in the entire world. Kings Island has a lot of normal theme park food like chicken strips and hamburgers. One thing I recommend trying, especially if you buy a 1 day meal plan, is a local favorite, Skyline Chili. Another great location is the Grain and Grill, located in the very front of the park. They offer European and Greek style meats and food. This is definitely a higher quality type restaurant than you normally see at a regional park, and I believe they source most of their food from local businesses and suppliers. For other food ideas and a full list of all of the restaurants, check out Fun Food Blog, which I will link in the description. They do an excellent job with food listings and reviews for all of the Cedar Fair parks. Kings Island doesn't offer any branded or on-site resorts like Cedar Point does, but there are hotels in the area. However, you can save some money by bundling your hotel and tickets by staying at select hotels. In terms of what days to visit, I'd recommend weekdays if at all possible. If you visit on a weekday, it is definitely possible to experience this park in 1 day without buying Fastlane. If you go to Kings Island on a weekend, especially in the summer, you might want Fastlane, but I'd recommend waiting until you get into the park to make that decision. Fastlane passes won't typically sell out, and if you buy one of these passes in advance and the weather's bad, the crowds will be small and that could end up being a waste of money. So if you get to the park and it's packed, then you should make your decision on Fastlane at that time. I do recommend taking a specific ride path when you get into the park. You should arrive about 30 minutes before the park officially opens, as this allows you to get parked and get to the front entrance. Kings Island does have early entry for Gold Pass members, but you can still get into the park without one. You just can't ride any of the early entry rides. But you can still get into the park with the Season Pass members, so you can be one of the first people in line for other attractions. When you enter the park, head straight to Area 72. You can then choose if you want to experience Orion or Flight of Fear first. I'd recommend hitting Orion first personally because I think it's a great way to start out the day, and it usually has one of the longest waits in the middle of the day, but in the morning you should be able to get 2 or 3 rides on it in less than half an hour. Then after that you can get a quick ride on Flight of Fear. Or you can do this in the inverse and try to get on Flight of Fear right away and then head to Orion right after. After that, head to Mystic Timbers and Diamondback. You can make a decision on which one you want to ride first, depending on the wait time, which you can check in the Kings Island app. After getting a couple rides on each, it should be about noon and you should go get a ride on the Beast. Once you've ridden all of these coasters, you can head back towards Orion in the front of the park. If Orion's line is short, you can try to squeeze in another lap. Then you'll want to ride Racer and continue to head down that side of the park towards the front, riding Adventure Express, Banshee, the Bat, and Invertigo. This will take about another hour or two, so it could be around 3 to 4 o'clock at this time. You'll have all of the major coasters ridden, so now you can go around and hit all of the credits or get re-rides on whatever you want. Make sure to check the Kings Island app for wait times so that you can avoid big lines and rides that are not operating. This park gets rave reviews for its operations, and I can attest that the ride ops at this park hustle trains out of the station. The Orion and Diamondback crews especially will basically be running up and down the trains as they check everyone's restraints, resulting in very quick dispatches and minimal stacking on the brake run. Plus, the workers are generally friendly and accommodating for row requests, which is always nice. Also, it is one of the cleaner regional chain parks you will visit, and that also helps to add to the fun atmosphere. If you visit on a weekday and follow our guide, you should easily be able to hit every coaster, plus the major flat rides, and have time to get some re-rides on your favorite attractions as well. In between Diamondback, Orion, and Mystic Timbers, Kings Island has an awesome top 3, making it well worth any visit for an enthusiast. If you have any thoughts on this park or other tips, leave them in the comments down below. And as always, thank you for watching.